When those main engines ignite, the space shuttle releases an overwhelming shockwave of fire and smoke. It looks like pure aggressive force, but left uncontrolled, that much explosive energy would instantly rip the vehicle to shreds. Getting to space is an exercise in strict mechanical discipline. The process begins months before anyone starts a countdown clock. After landing, the shuttle is flown back to Florida on the back of a specially modified airplane and rolled into the orbiter processing facility. Inside, engineering teams spend months physically crawling over the airframe. They methodically inspect, repair, and replace thousands of individual components to ensure the ship is safe to endure another launch. Long before any fire touches the launch pad, success is secured through this slow, repetitive cycle of maintenance. From there, the orbiter moves to the vehicle assembly building. Standing 38 stories tall, the facility is scaled specifically to manage the colossal hardware inside. The entire launch system is stacked vertically, piece by piece. Workers join the two solid rocket boosters, hoist the giant external fuel tank into place, and finally use a massive crane to lower the orbiter and mount it directly to the side of the tank. The fully stacked system then exits on top of the mobile launch platform, driven by a massive treaded machine underneath called the crawler transporter. Moving a fully fueled spacecraft requires intense caution. The crawler operates at an agonizingly slow pace of less than 1.5 kilometers per hour, turning a 5-kilometer trip to the launch pad into an all-day journey. Handling immense weight demands deliberate, calculated motion. Pushing for speed here would be a disaster. Out on Launch Pad 39A, floodlights cut through the pitch-black night as the final fueling sequence begins. This diagram shows a major physical hurdle for the launch team. At room temperature, hydrogen and oxygen are gases. The molecules spread out, requiring an enormous amount of volume. But if you chill these gases down to extreme temperatures, they condense into liquids. This drops their physical footprint, allowing engineers to pack millions of liters of highly concentrated propellant inside the external tank. Because this liquid oxygen is so cold, moisture in the warm Florida air immediately tries to freeze at the top of the tank. To stop heavy chunks of ice from forming and falling during liftoff, a heated hood called the beanie cap sits directly over the vent. As the clock drops toward zero, a massive flood of water dumps directly onto the pad structure beneath the exhaust holes. This is the sound suppression system. When the main engines fire, the acoustic shock waves are so powerful they would bounce off the concrete and literally shatter the shuttle. The rushing water absorbs that destructive sound. At T-minus 10 seconds, a shower of sparks erupts under the engine bells. This hydrogen burn-off system safely ignites any stray fuel vapor before it can pull up and cause an accidental explosion under the ship. Every step in this countdown is a calculated defense mechanism. The machine actively protects itself from the violent energy it needs to fly. At T0, the hold-down bolts detonate to release the ship. The solid rocket boosters ignite, and the launch is locked in. Once that solid fuel is lit, there is no off switch. Shortly after clearing the tower, computers execute the roll program. The entire vehicle rotates on its vertical axis, so the orbiter flies upside down. Pointing the belly toward the sky is an aerodynamic requirement. It drastically reduces the physical stress on the orbiter's fragile wings as it punches through the lower atmosphere. As the vehicle accelerates, the resistance of the air pushes harder against the nose. This creates a highly dangerous phase, known as max Q, the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure. To survive this structural strain, the computers take a counterintuitive step. They actually throttle the main engines down. Only after passing through the thickest part of the atmosphere do they throttle back up to full power. When external pressure is peaking, pushing harder will tear the vehicle apart. The safe maneuver is to ease off, survive the stress, and accelerate when the resistance drops. About 2 minutes into the flight, the solid rocket boosters exhaust their fuel. They detach from the stack and parachute into the ocean, finishing their initial brute force job. At 8.5 minutes, the computers call for main engine cutoff. They intentionally shut down the 3 engines just before the fuel completely runs dry. If the pumps tried to run on empty tanks, they would destroy themselves. With its propellant spent, the massive orange tank detaches from the orbiter's belly, falling toward Earth to burn up in the atmosphere. The heavy main engines are now dead weight. To make the exact, delicate final push into a stable orbit, the shuttle fires two much smaller OMS rocket motors on its tail, locking in a speed of 28,000 kilometers per hour. The extreme violence of liftoff is behind them. The orbiter is now gliding smoothly in the vacuum of space, ready to run science experiments or dock with the International Space Station. Escaping gravity takes an incredible amount of energy, but reaching a stable orbit relies entirely on precise timing, strict maintenance, and a deep respect for the limits of the machine.